Hello again, and welcome to this interview in the series that is all about inspiring and empowering a league of extraordinary mothers on how to rekindle that fire in your belly so you can step into life with more clarity, purpose, and excitement. Today we have with us Dr. Ashleigh Bond. Ashleigh is a chiropractor and a co-founder of the Wellness Women. Thank you so much for being with us, Ashleigh.
Thanks so much, Edwina. It's really a great gift to be back. And I remember doing our first series together and it was just incredible and the feedback was wonderful. So it's a real pleasure to join you again. Thank you for inviting me.
Well, I obviously loved you so much that we had to have you back. So I'm thrilled to dive into this conversation. For the mums that haven't met you yet, Ashleigh, can you give us a little bit of a story, how you came to be doing the work you're doing and just your background?
Oh gosh, I'll make the short version because there's so many beautiful, avenues to that journey. It's, as a lot of people know, their journeys just sometimes bounce and there's these fork of the road moments and there's accidental things that happen, serendipitous moments as well. But I think the short story is that from my teenage years, constant belief that I'm incredible as a person. I just always believed that we were all here to do something really great. I focused that into my sports realms in that point in my life, but then I was sort of stripped of some of that opportunity through injury, which sent me down the path of looking at different healthcare pursuits to try and fix me, so to speak. And then I met an incredible person who happened to be a chiropractor, could have been anyone, but that's what he was. And he really inspired me to seek health from within, to really trust my body and to know my body and to listen and to learn. So I'm always grateful that at such a young age I got the opportunity to trust my inner self, trust the voice from within that, talks about health or sometimes the gut feels on things you're doing and when you're doing it and how you're doing it. He was really a very, I would call, a visionary for me at that point in my life, which, set me down the pathway of chiropractic as a career. And it's so funny because for me, it's never felt like a job. I mean, I won't say that the training at university for 5 years was the most easy thing I've ever done. It was certainly incredibly challenging, but through all of that, you become a better, different person. You learn new things about yourself. And I think from that point, it was really a journey towards today, which is really just going on those moments where I'm not happy where I am. This is not serving me. I don't feel fulfilled in some way. What's next? And never being afraid to make changes. I think that's where a lot of women, often get stuck in the conversations I have with, gorgeous mums in practice and gorgeous women who are kind of feel like they're stuck in their life somehow. I've always believed you are the designer of your life. You have the opportunity to make change if you choose to, as uncomfortable as that will be. Because if it's not uncomfortable, I would sort of say to people, you cannot have change without challenge. They fit together. The words, interlink, and therefore to be afraid of change means you're afraid of life. And I think that's something that I have always sort of spearheaded, I said, no, I'm not afraid. I mean, yeah, it scares the hell out of me to do this. And that's where, I left a wonderful, successful practice in Sydney, moved overseas with nothing but a backpack, and just a hope and a dream that, I could create some magic stuff. Met amazing people and, ended up then living and working in Europe for a number of years. And again, like you always laugh and say, serendipitous, met my husband on a pool deck in the Netherlands, both at, a swimming carnival, like carnival championships, let's just put it, it was the national championship. So it's not just, your local carnival, but that led to that, that a massive amount of trust that's required to do some hard things, some brave things. And together, we've grown from that, came back to Australia. And I really had just a stirring passion to teach and inspire women to choose their path, to really make things happen. And, I really thought that I knew what all that meant. And then motherhood came along and knocked me on the floor. And I think that opportunity to grow through the transition from having this incredible pregnancy that I just felt like everything I wanted was right there, just this incredible ability to create. I was like this amazing space of dreaming and creating, and it was just obviously part of that hormonal transition to motherhood as well. I was just able to draw on so much inspiration to do so much stuff, and it was wonderful. And then, an amazing birth. I managed to literally, the room you see beside me here is the room that I birthed my son in. So we're sitting in my birth room right now. And, you know, we home birthed, water birthed in a beautiful pool birth that I can't say is anything but everything I dreamed and hoped for. And that's when everything fell apart, so to speak. After that, you know, the midwives left and my husband and I are lying on the bed going, okay, what the hell do we do now? Like, how does this work? And I can only say that the next 12 months after Oliver arrived was probably the hardest of my life so far, in lots of different ways. And that's, you know, in context of the experiences you have. So I know that that's my version of hard, and other people and other women have their versions of hard. And I always say to people, it's all relative. You know, your hardest day and your saddest day and your scariest day is the same as my hardest and scariest and saddest day, because it's all relative to the experiences we have in our life. And that's a constant growth and evolution as well. So this was my hardest challenge so far. And to understand, you know, the academics that I've always understood from, you know, textbooks about women's health and, you know, holistic, you know, well-being and the practices you need to employ to keep your life and health together, just went out the window, and I just couldn't seem to hold it together. And I was putting on a brave face, and I think this is where a lot of women probably get caught out. We go and do our postnatal checks, and you have a chat to the health nurses, and you say everything's okay, but really I think the one word I had, you know, when I finally was able to voice it, and this is probably 8 or 9 months into my motherhood journey, was I'm suffocating.
Yeah.
And it's a pretty dramatic word, I think, if I was to say, you know, for a choice of words, but it was really, I had no intention of hurting myself or anyone, you know, and so it wasn't this, I didn't fit into that Edinburgh scale of clinical depression, you know, for postnatal, which kind of left me out in the wind. It was like, I need help, but they telling me I'm fine because that, you know, that score came back and they said you're okay. And so, you know, a doctor says I'm okay and a health nurse says I'm okay, but inside I don't feel okay. I don't feel like myself. I don't know who I am, and I'm suffocating and I'm really struggling. And like, what do I do? It probably didn't help much that I don't have family here in Perth. You know, my husband and I are not from this area. My family's in Sydney, his family are in the Netherlands. So we really are a long way from that community of family that we always had. And I really believed I was this I guess, rock island. I could do everything. I was strong and I was capable. And then motherhood showed me that I really need bigger network than I believed I could. And I'd always relied on myself to be that anchor. But suddenly I was adrift and I needed someone else to anchor me. I guess that's probably what got me to where we are today and why we're having this conversation, two mothers about mothering and motherhood and, you know, purpose, direction, vision, and how you realign yourself back into the woman you believe you are deep down. Because I know there's a lot of women who are doing the things that they believe they should be doing because that's what good mothering looks like. Yeah. But deep down there's this burning, stirring fire that I'm sure there's more. Like, I believe I can do something else, or there's creativity that's, you know, burning, that's not being unleashed, or there's a vision that's there that is just a dream. And it's like, oh, well, one day when the kids go to school, or one day when the kids get to high school, I'll have more time, or one day when they're teenagers and they're out of the house, you know, I'll have more time and I'll do it then. But, you know, that could be 20 years away if you really think about it, because I know from all the families I work with, kids are living at home until they're 20. So, you know, it can be quite some time until you get that freedom that you believe you need to be able to give yourself permission to chase and follow your dreams.
Yeah. And, you know, that day, if you wait for it to suddenly dawn, actually doesn't come. You know, I can remember thinking when my four were all at school, I would suddenly have all this time, but the reality is that it doesn't. And I now I now have children that are leaving the house, and my eldest son will be 20 this year and has moved on. But, you know, the gap doesn't necessarily open up because it's getting filled up all along the way. So waiting for that magical day where you wake up and go, oh, I've got all this time, it actually doesn't come. It's a proactive thing to pull these things into place now rather than waiting. That using that word suffocating is something that I've heard so often. I've heard that so often from mums, and I can remember really clearly at one point waking up thinking, I actually don't want to wake up. And that went on for quite some time. And for somebody that is, you know, a morning person and gets up and always has that excited sort of anticipation for the day, to be in that place, I didn't want to die. I just didn't want to wake up. I didn't want to have to deal with my life and everything that went on. And I think that, you know, I think that that is pretty common for most of us at somewhere along the way.
Yeah, and it's something that I think that we don't give ourselves permission to feel. You know, I'm not allowed to feel like this. I just have to keep going. I haven't slept at all last night. You know, I've been up every hour of the night, but I've got to hold it together, because that's what mums do. Because I just looked at my phone, and on Instagram, so-and-so is doing this and she's looking amazing, and I've got to look like that too. And one of my big things that I learnt, I guess, thankfully I've never really been too tied to social media except for business purposes, in the sense that I have my own little networking community that I talk to, you know, family through different means. But I have never been drawn too heavily into what I like to call the comparison trap. But I just find that it's something that unfortunately is pervasive. It's just, you know, insidious in all of our lives, because it's just so normal to pick up the phone, look at Instagram, you know, read Twitter feeds, to look at your Facebook, and determine the value and quality of yourself in your life based upon what you see others doing and achieving. And so I kind of sort of say to women not to compare yourselves. Like, your motherhood journey is going to be yours and yours alone. Definitely, you know, clear out the stuff that doesn't serve you. So if these accounts make you feel less about yourself, if watching someone else's life makes you feel compared, guilty or trapped, or you need to be better than what you are right now, and it doesn't inspire you, and I say inspires that positive feeling of going, oh my God, she's amazing. I can't wait to do something tomorrow, because I really want to, you know, follow that pursuit, because she's really doing stuff that I believe in, that I can be too, as opposed to the, oh my God, look at her body bounce back after baby. I need to hit the gym. I have got to strip down. This is, you know, I've got to stop eating this much. Like I've got to, and it's that guilt and that punishment that we are so good as women doing to ourselves. And it was actually, strangely enough, that space of the guilt and punishment, comparing myself to other women, a bit like yourself, you know, doing extraordinary things, where I was stuck in this new mother trap of feeling suffocated. And I was like, how do I get out of this? Like, how do I get back to the vision, the creativity, the legacy process that I was going through, you know, with all the other things in my life? And thankfully, you know, myself and Dr. Andrea, who I work with on the Wellness Women, you know, we decided to channel that into something proactive, something I feel like I could, you know, build with her to create something that was going to actually heal myself in the process of healing other women. And that's where we came around to developing our 28-day hormone reset. Strangely enough, it was more because I needed it probably more than anyone. I really needed to rejig, you know, myself, my life, refocus on the true things that bring health and well-being. And in the process, hopefully creating a tool or a platform to teach other women how to, you know, refocus as well. And I say refocus because most of us know a lot of the things we know are good for us. You know, no one needs to be told twice. It's better. You're better off eating a great, you know, green salad topped with grilled chicken and a drizzle of, you know, gorgeous olive oils, nuts and seeds, compared to, you know, a quick fix bowl of porridge and a choc bar on the side. Like, we know that. I always say to women, you already know what is right and what doesn't feel right, because your body doesn't feel good when you don't serve it what you need. And that's including, you know, the thoughts we have, you know, our bodies and our minds. We don't feel good when there's that little voice on one shoulder that's constantly contradicting or you know, talking negatively to ourselves. So I feel as though it is a refocus, because it's nothing more than just resetting the very foundations you really do have, and hopefully learning some new things along the way that makes more sense and fulfills the big why. Because a lot of people want to change their life, but they're just doing it because they see the should factor, as opposed to the big driving, hot burning fire of the why within, which still says, why? Because I really want this, because I know that I've got more to give, you know, just those other bigger reasons that are sustainable. And I call that the inspiration versus motivation, because motivation requires someone with a whip, you know, cracking it behind you all the time to try and keep you on track. The inspiration is that fire that you're rekindling with the programs that you do, and this sort of summit that you created, because hopefully that drives the why and the vision of it's possible. I can do this. I know I can. And the wheels turn from there.
Yeah. Right at the beginning, you talked about, you know, choice. And this is a big thing that I feel really passionate about, because I feel like as a society we've handed over our empowerment to a medical system that is very much about here's the fix it, go away and do this, whereas I feel really passionate about learning the tools myself and tapping into people that give me more tools to empower me to take care of my own health. So my choice is to go to naturopaths and chiropractors and people who are giving me tools all the time to take care of my own health. So with that, there's chiropractic care is certainly one of them. And for the mums that haven't been to a chiropractor, if you could explain a little bit about the sort of care that you offer and the services beyond, just going to somebody because your back is aching.
I love that question, because it is something that unfortunately we've got these it's always like it's a line in the sand. We sort of have these the people who love, the people who don't love, the people who can only say bad things, and the people who only glow and reference great things about their experiences with chiropractic. And unfortunately I can't change all of that. All I can say is that when you look towards health and well-being as an inside job, understanding that the healing that occurs in a body at any given time on any given day, because remember, we're regenerating cell by cell on a daily basis. This is not just when I'm sick. This is every single day. To stay well, we must remove dead cells and tissues, regenerate and renew and rebuild and prune away neural pathways that are not serving us. This is happening constantly on a daily basis, and chiropractic's foundation is that the brain is the master control system. It sends signals to and from the body by the incredible and I guess never-ending network of neural pathways, the nervous system, through the spinal cord out to organs, muscles and joints via every spinal nerve. And when you start to appreciate the magnitude of that brilliance, I mean, any woman who's given birth knows this already. You grew another human being. How did that happen? We aren't Mary Magdalene. We don't have these immaculate conceptions. So therefore, those conceptions occur because the body builds those cells, and they are built upon the foundations of the nervous system that are controlling, coordinating all of those things. So I look to the spine and nervous system. I test that and check that through chiropractic, corrections, in the sense that we can check the nervous system, we can check the musculoskeletal system, so muscle attachments, all those other aspects of it. But primarily for me, it's always neurologic. What is the nervous system doing? How is it sending controlling messages to and from the brain? And then once if we find that there's any challenges or any disruptions in that connections, then for me, it's about what is the best way forward here? What does this person need right now? Because every one of us, I mean, I'm trained personally myself I've got 5 techniques in full, and I've got parts of lots of other different techniques, because I believe that there's no one person the same, and that includes the nervous system, that everyone fires and does things differently. Our perception of the world, gosh, I mean, you just have to look at those. I always laugh at those, those things that go around on Facebook and social media where they go, is this a black dress or a blue dress? Or, is this golden, and you're sitting there, and I'm sitting there with my husband. We had one the other day. It was a shoe, and it was either pink and white or grey and a blue-green. I'm seeing the grey and the blue-green, and he's swearing blind is pink and white. And I'm just like, I cannot see this for anything. Now, that is a classic example of interpretation. That's nervous system. That's a combination of experiences, all our sensory nervous system, obviously visual factors as well. This is all about how our nervous system perceives the world. So hence the reason techniques have to adapt to that, right? We've got to have the skills to be able to do what someone needs. So I use, obviously, manual corrections, manual adjustments that people are commonly familiar with, which is the clicks, cracks and pops of chiropractic. I use low force techniques, I use craniosacral techniques, and of course I'm trained in paediatrics and pregnancy. So there's some very specific and unique techniques to those particular times in life, because obviously we've got to have those tools there, because women who are pregnant cannot be, side turned and twisted and do things like that. It's not my preference. So I use things for, assisting positioning, for example, of babies, such as the Webster technique or spinning babies protocols, which I've done some wonderful training with. So there's just that holism, I think, is what I always refer back to. I'm like, you can't treat one thing. You look at the body as a whole and decide what that whole system needs. And sometimes the advice I give is less, traditional chiropractic, in the sense of let's look at your spine nervous system, more like you need to calm the farm. We need to get you to breathe again. We need to get you to calm down the nervous system. And I can't do that alone. And I never do the work alone. You know, whatever I do with someone is always teamwork. So ladies, if you've ever wondered whether chiropractic is for you and you're not sure, I think the best thing to do is talk to people who have been to chiropractors they trust and respect and understand, and get personal references that way, because I find that just, you know, possibly Dr. Googling something may not land you in the office you need, you know, not in the hands of the carer that you need at that point in your life, because we're not all the same, and therefore you need to find that person that aligns with you, which is probably why you've tapped into this, you know, series as well. What's aligning with you right now? What do you need?
Yeah.
Does that answer it? I was like, yeah. We could talk forever. I already know we can just go for hours. But
yeah, absolutely. I just go into the zone, and then I forget that I'm supposed to ask another question because I'm so tuned into what you're saying.
I think the long story short is yes. You know, I believe if you have a spinal nervous system and you've never been checked, then it's a great time to do it. If you have been checked and, you know, you're doing the right things, then you're doing everything wonderfully well for your body. So keep doing it. So, yeah.
And there is no, you know, it doesn't matter what modality people choose.
Correct.
There's no one person that's perfect for everybody. So
no.
Persist until you find that right person. Yeah. So when you went from that journey of having a career and having all these things on the go, and then having your beautiful son, and things went a bit pear-shaped for a year, you said. And, you know, I'm interested in that journey because I think so many of the mums that tune into this know what it is to get into that place. The tricky bit is pulling yourself out again, and how you find not necessarily the motivation, the inspiration, the inspiration to just take the steps forward. Or, you know, was it people that you tuned into or spoke to or collaborating, or, you know, what do you think are some of the ideas that you can share in how you sort of moved beyond that place?
Absolutely. And I think that's probably the grit of it, isn't it? Like, how do you change when you feel like you're stuck? Particularly me being so deep in it. And I will just say that the big compounding factor to every mother who's ever been here, you know, is going to be here soon, is sleep deprivation is literally torture. Yeah. And unfortunately, it makes your ability to think well incredibly challenged. It's a disability of sorts, because you are not able to formulate the coherent processes that your brain needs to function at the level it does each day. So one thing I did first was just to recognize there was a problem. And I say a problem, it was a problem because I wasn't feeling good. I wasn't feeling like myself. I knew, like I said, if I'm using words like the word suffocating, that's a problem. That's a big, jolly, big red flag right there, to say, okay, all right, what do I need? And to be really honest with you, that took quite some time. I kept asking that question, what do I need? What do I really need right now? And it was a bit of almost like a little dog chasing its tail for a while there, because I kept thinking of things that I thought I need. I just need more sleep. And then I'd get a few nights of more sleep, but that wasn't it. Yeah. Mind you can't solve, you know, months. It was more like 9 months of sleep deprivation with, you know, 4 nights in a row of good sleep. But I expected more from that. I thought, if I just get a couple of nights good sleep, I'm just going to be able to see clearer, and then I could create more from this. I can do something. And that wasn't it. And so then it was like, okay, so that's not working. That's great. I thought sleep was the only problem right now. And then it was really, okay, what do I really need? And that question kept coming up. So I really encourage them to say that, what do I really need right now? And that could be in lots of different areas. And really it came down to, what do I need right now was like a mother to mother me. I really needed to have the support of women who had been there, done that, to just say, it's okay. And then I needed the permission to go, okay, this is okay. And then I needed to be able to say, the next thing I need is more me time. I needed to be able to step away and not feel fully responsible 100% of the time, even though my husband, Peter, is incredible as a husband and as a father. His ability to, you know, to support me and to carry the load is second to none. I couldn't expect more or ask for more. But it didn't matter. Even if I went out for 2 hours just to try and find me time, I was just left feeling guilty, like I should be doing something for them, that I'm neglecting him as a husband, I'm neglecting Oliver as a child. And I still felt this incredible overwhelm. So I was like, okay, so that's not working too. Like, hang on. And the first thing that really set the turns was allowing someone else to give me help. Allowing, just permitting someone other than my husband to, take over our child for a while so we could go out together. And it wasn't me time, but suddenly it was like, okay, so it's not him, it's not me, someone else is there, it's going to be okay, our child's fine, it's going to be okay. Like, just all that stuff, just that permission to let go a little, let the reins go. So stretching that, I guess I use the word, I always said stretch the umbilical cord. Even though you cut it, you still keep stretching it. And some days your child's the one stretching it. Like, they run down the street a bit, then they turn back and they come back. It's like that elastic cord, the cord is still there. Yeah. And then little by little, I watch as he's, just over 2 now, that cord is getting longer and longer. He's able to do more things. The neediness is not there. That blood supply, that lifeline is, you're not the all and everything all the time. So that freedom and that permission to go, you know what, he's okay. He's got this. I had to start that at 4 months old because I went back to work when he was 4 months. So it was incredibly uncomfortable, and that's probably why as well I struggled so much, was I still hadn't given myself permission. I just felt guilty all the time. I was leaving with someone else, even though we'd vetted this amazing woman and she's the perfect angel and she's like the Mary Poppins for us, but it still wasn't enough. So it has to start with the work on yourself. It starts from within. So for me, it was that mental clarity. What tools did I need to get my mindset right? And straight enough, back to basics. Gratitude. Gratitude. Holy moly. Not that I wasn't grateful every day, but I was resenting so much that you can't be in a place of resentment or anger and have gratitude at the same time. It just doesn't work like that. And so being in a space of love and gratitude basically nullifies any resentments and angers and, guilts and things like that. So starting to get really, really grateful and making it every moment. I call it my, my mean girl behind there, just starting to say things like, can't believe you're doing this again. Look at him crying. This is not okay. Why do you need to do this? Maybe we should be making different choices. Like that conversation. And it'll just keep going, keep going, right? Yeah. And then I'd be like, whoa, cool that down, right? That's not okay for me because that's not serving me. It's not making me feel better about my life and what I'm doing. I'm incredibly grateful that we've chosen an amazing woman to look after Oliver. I'm so grateful, we're here, he's healthy, he's well. I'm so grateful that we're not sitting in a hospital looking at a child in another situation. Do you know, like that gratitude? And sometimes there had to be a negative gratitude. And so like that last example is one where you go, it's a comparison, but it also helps to like reframe you. Like, hang on, shake it out a bit, right? We're okay. A roof over our head, amazing, ability to fill our fridge full of food that's valuable and healthful, and my child's well and I'm still breastfeeding. Like all of those things that I wasn't grateful for, I was resentful for. I'm like, damn it, I wish you'd stop breastfeeding. I really didn't mean that. I was just exhausted. I felt like Daisy the dairy cow. I didn't really mean that deep down. But I kept saying those things. And so that negative self-talk was not serving. So that was first place. Mental clarity was just bringing my stuff back together. And to do that required the tools of the things that I have learned in the past. Thankfully I have had incredible training. The brain's like a muscle, you sometimes stop using it in the way that it was designed for. So you can't go and do bicep curls when it's the legs that really need the workout. So the brain you can't do anything else to substitute for the work you have to do on the mindset. And no one can do it for you. That's the worst part, right? Yeah. Don't we want to just hand over to someone else? Can't you just fix me? Can't you just tell me how to do this today? Don't you just like lead me and hold my hand and make this happen? And people can for a while. There's always great support needed, but they can't take you everywhere you need to go. They can't hold your hand every minute of the day. They need to say, okay, you've got the tools. You're okay. You can do this. So I lean on works like people like John Demartini. I love the incredible Dr. Bruce Lipton. He just kind of stirs my soul. He just makes sense to me. I'm like, biology of belief. Guys like Dr. Joe Dispenza, like just that stuff, because I'm a bit of a science nerd, right? They're the people that make my brain go, wow, that's so cool, amazing. Now, other women listening to this might be like, don't know who they are, couldn't care less about them, that doesn't make sense to me. I need, maybe I need the sacred spiritual mama. I need the earth woman. So I need to go find those spiritual, guides, those women that embody the wild woman or embody. And that's just led me into another thought there. One of the other things that I finally did, I had this book on my shelf for years. I kid you not, years. It had been given to me as a gift. I knew I needed to read it, but it just hadn't called to me. And all of a sudden it called, and it's Women Who Run with the Wolves. Oh, yeah. And it is just like, hello. So ladies, if you haven't picked that one up, I think this serves us as women when we're at crossroads, particularly, at any time. I'd love to teenage women, but I just don't think we all get it when we need it. I think it's something that it's quite I'd say, is it a heavy, have you read it?
Yeah, well, yes.
It takes focus to stay there, because the concepts are quite big, but when they come, they just go, oh, and it's like, I said I was suffocating. I was like, oh my gosh, I can breathe again. I get this. This makes sense. It's okay. It's part of the journey. Okay, I need to run with the wild pack. My wild women, I've always been that person. That's what I've let go of. That's the thing. And that was really as well another transition point. So I think everything I've just spoken about is mindset, right? So start there. And of course, the next thing, and this is, did you want me to run through like my top tips of where women, okay. Because I think, if we can say mindset is the first piece, because without the mind, you can't then flow on and do, it takes mindset to create action. So the action then is, right, get that mental clarity back. And then the action is the focus on fitness and nourishment and putting yourself first. And that's that self-care, allowing yourself to be whole and nourished before you can actually go and try and complete others and fulfill the needs you have as mother and as a carer and as maybe a career woman or any other role that you have. You can't fulfill those things to your greatest potential, providing and sharing your greatest gifts, if you yourself are not in the space to give those things. So I'm a classic giver. I will give and I'll give and I'll give and I'll give and I'll give until there's nothing left of me, because I literally have a mantra on my world. There's a couple of things that are written, and it is, my purpose is to serve. Yeah. And I've believed that since I was young. It's been engaged in everything I've ever done. So it's really clear that that's the purpose. So the trick with that is having a catch net to say, I'm giving, but I also deserve to receive. Yeah. I also deserve and am worthy of having something to fill my bucket too, because I can't fill someone else's if mine's empty. So then it's about, for me, really about, one, getting the right foods into your body, making better choices about that. I can harp on and on about the nutritional foundations you need to have for health, but I think that's something that you all explore because you want to, because just walk into a shop of bookstores, there is hundreds of books on health and nutrition and which diet's the best. I don't believe in any of them. I always say the only diet that works is the one that works for you. Yeah. And so that means, and a diet is not a diet of deprivation. A diet means what foods go into your body. What's this foundational principle that you put into your life is nourishment. For me, that means whole foods. That means clean whole foods. It means, does it come from nature? Is it alive? Is it coming from a packet, or does it come from, a whole source such as the ground or off a tree? How altered is it from its original form? Yeah. Yes, it might be an apple, but if it's dehydrated and processed with sugars, does that make it a healthy option, or should I just go and get a whole apple? It's making those choices on a daily basis, those swaps and those changes to how we see food. So I think there's better guides in that than I am, but I really just found that that's something I went back to. So to be fair, as a mother, I sometimes found it was just too mentally stressful, to the idea of getting my child into the car, out of the car, into the shops, into the trolley, round the shops, trying to keep the cool, not having meltdowns, like all of that stuff. Some days it just doesn't. It's just like, so guess what? I'm going to make bad health choices, because then I'm going to do a quick run around maybe the local little store, grab the crappy things that are on the shelf that may not be as fresh as they should be because it's easier, but it doesn't make me healthier. So I started to order a home box, right? The simplest thing. So here in Perth, we have an amazing group. They're called Dinner Twist. I just order from them. Yeah. It's a fraction more than I would spend on my own shop. It saves me so much stress. It comes to my door. It's fresh and it's ready to go. So I know sometimes we don't give ourselves permission to do that. Yeah. I feel guilty. I'm not a good enough mother if I'm not going to the shops and filling my trolley full of food, because that's what women do to feed their family. And I was like, well, hang on. We've got services that do this. And they're not better or worse. They're just my choice. So that's another way through. Ladies, if you're struggling and the food is the thing, please stop making excuses and start looking at the possibilities of what's around. I mean, shops like Woolies and Coles do click and collect. They do deliveries. There's just so many choices that sometimes we've not allowed ourselves to make. So start to look at the sideways options. You know, you don't have to struggle through the shop and do something you don't enjoy doing. Outsource it, give it to someone else. So that's the other one is then going to that nourishment. So that's the whole food stuff. And then of course, fitness is the one I found that myself and probably most women struggle with after having children is I can do the other stuff. Okay, I'm making the food because everyone has to eat every day. But if it comes down to a time expense, meaning that what are you going to spend your time on first? It'll be all other family tasks first. I talk to so many women, this is the same thing they say every time. They'll put out the washing, they'll do everything else, make sure the house is fulfilled. So it's like that nesting thing. They've made sure the needs of their children, their partner are met. And then if there's any time left, they may go and exercise.
Yeah.
And I say may because it may come at another choice thinking, I really need to rest right now. I'd rather put my feet up on the couch and read a magazine.
Yeah.
And it's like, or I could go for a run and sweat. And they're like, nah, I'm going to go to the magazine. So like, how real is that? How normal is that to see that that's just how we decide to spend our energy and our time. So instead it then has to be about, you know, getting real about exercise. What does exercise actually do? And the good thing for me, again, back to the science nerd, I just couldn't find the motivation to exercise because other things were coming at that expense. And I was literally exhausted. I had no energy reserves because I was up every hour of the night. You know, it's not conducive to burning energy more. There's no more energy to burn. You're already exhausted. Yeah. So I went back to base and said, what does exercise actually do for the human body and the human brain?
Yeah.
Just as a foundation to understand the why again. And looking at why exercise is critical. We are designed to move. We have joints, muscles, ligaments, and all those attachments because our structure needs to move to drive the nervous system, to drive the brain. Yeah. It's a big cogwheel going on here. If you don't get enough inputs, you don't drive higher centers of the brain. If you don't get enough of the brain activity working, you don't drive the body to do anything. And we literally are killing ourselves through inactivity. There's categorical evidence to show that the new form of smoking is sedentary lifestyle, is inactivity. It is killing us because without that neural activity, without that brain activity, we don't have normal balanced hormones. We don't have normal circadian sleep cycles. We can't be energized and active. We don't drive the mitochondria, the little energy producing cells in the body. So that's the path that I took. I was like, holy crap, this is just not okay. Yeah. I know that I don't feel like I have to or need to right now, but I have to. Yeah. My brain needs this. And if I think I'm in a funky place, the first thing I've got to do is get this thing going again. So ladies, if in your funky place in your life, you have to get your brain going, which means you have to move, which means you have to do some form of exercise. My clearest rule I have on exercise is this. If exercise energizes you, go and do more of it. Meaning that if it brings you energy, ramp it up. You know, do a HIIT workout, do an aerobics class, do something that really, makes you buzz because energy creates energy. Yeah. If when you exercise, it depletes the tank, if you feel like you're flat after, if you've lost energy, if you don't feel re-energized in some way, you need to change the type of energy. And this is where I ask people to go into restorative movement, meaning this could be yoga, this could be Pilates, something that's maybe a yin yoga, something that's more bringing that energy in. It could be meditation, it could be breathing practices, literally spending for 15 to 20 minutes just focusing on breath work, visualization and meditation. Yeah. I know that doesn't sound like exercise, but you have to have energy before you can move more. So that is the first foundation to that. Strangely enough, give it a couple of weeks of doing that bringing the energy in, and the first walk around the block doesn't seem so taxing anymore. So it's, just that idea of where do you start, and you start where you are. Energy creates energy. Therefore, if it's making you feel better, do more. If it's making you feel worse, find a new version, and that's that restorative. Does that cover those kind of foundations?
Yeah, and I was thinking in amongst that, pumping the music up and actually kind of getting a bit of a groove on while you're doing the housework. It is so fun. And then just I hate what I'm doing.
Yeah, have fun with it, and that's it. And enlist friends. I always say, have fun with it. Make it, if it's a walk and talk with a girlfriend, it's still moving, right? You're moving your jaw while you're moving your body. That's great. It doesn't matter, but it's got you moving. And I actually don't do it's as a professional thing too. I have often over the years I often get asked by student chiropractors and other, my colleagues, if we can do a coffee date, I want to pick your brain about something. And I always say yes, but I say the only yes is you have to bring your shoes, because we're going to go grab your drink. I don't drink coffee, so it's no big deal to me. I don't mind what I have in my hand, green smoothie, whatever. And we do a walk and talk.
Yep.
Because I refuse to spend the spare time I do have sitting on my backside at a cafe, talking and supporting someone when I think, hang on, we can both win here. Let's get moving while we do it. And it's not quite the face-to-face, but it's the soundboard that's being created. That's the most important thing, and the fact that two people get to move at the same time. So, there's the creative ways of doing it. You don't have to do a coffee and cake date. You can actually just go for a walk and talk, grab your joggers, make more fun, get your vitamin D, which again, we talked about mental health, overcoming the funk in motherhood. You need vitamin D, good sources. So getting outside, getting some fresh air, sunshine, all those things. These are all the foundations of health and wellbeing that we sometimes neglect when we are mums.
Yeah. You have just given so much information in this interview. It has been so inspiring. Each of the speakers, as we wind up, is sharing on the ideal day, and I like to always emphasize that because not every day starts the way we want it to, but on the ideal day, what is your perfect morning routine?
What can I say? Okay, so on my ideal day, it's the one that I create already, and that is so my husband and I do tag team every morning of the week. We do exercise alternating because we can't both be out of the house at the same time. So my ideal day is I get up 5 a.m. I get out the door, I go down to the beach. We fortunately live on the coast, so for me that's my happy place. Just the walk down to the beach. Sometimes I change my mind, and this is what I was saying about women, exercising. Some days I get up and just even knowing that burning more is not going to help me that day, and I'll switch to a coast walk as opposed to my normal gym workout and sort of heavier routine, and watch the sunrise. And then I get to come home and I make myself a big breakfast smoothie, which is just filled with greens and berries and, just all my green powders and my scoops of this and scoops of that, all the stuff that I just know is whole food nourishment, makes me feel incredible. Either on the way to the beach training or on the way back, I run through some gratitude. So at least 3 things. I say at least because I don't want it to be like, I have to do this every day, it's boring. Just, wow, where do I want to see this day go today? What's my energy going to be like? What's the feel I'm going to have at the end of the day? Because sometimes the planning forward, knowing how I'm going to feel at the end of the day, it's almost like magnetism. It draws all the things towards you. I really believe that. And then that gratitude as well, that waking with sunrise. Thank you so much for another opportunity to serve, the world the way I believe I can today. Thank you for my family. Like just everything that makes me really feel whole. And for some people that's prayer. If it's prayer, beautiful, use prayer. For me, I've just always, the word universe just settles in my soul. It just encompasses everything and nothing. It's all. So that really is the word that I use. But you have to find your own source of words. That's my ideal day. That's where I start. If I have done that, then I can tell it's a rock and roll kind of day.
Well, I know you've I've thrown a little spanner in your morning routine this morning because I think it was 5:30 for you when we started this, 5:30 a.m. Thank you so much for showing up and for sharing so much. It's just been a fabulous interview. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Edwina. Have a gorgeous day.
All right, bye for now.
Bye.